to the ExecMBA podcast. I'm your host, Brett Twitty, and you are listening to a new episode. On this episode of the podcast, I'm excited to feature a conversation I recently recorded with Anna Christen. Anna is an Executive MBA format student in our class of 2020, and she and I recently sat down to talk a little bit more about her background, why she decided to pursue an MBA, what led her to Darden, and how she's balanced the demands of being a new mom and being in our program. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Anna Christen. Anna, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
All right. So tell us a little bit more about you. Who are you and what do you do?
Sure. So my name's Anna. We'll start there. I live in Texas right now. I was once in the Army and I'm still in the reserves. But now I work at a nonprofit that helps military spouses and veterans find meaningful employment opportunities.
All right. So let's talk a little bit more about your life as a Darden student. Talk out sort of not just school life, but the rest of life. We've had Olivia Joe on the podcast. You and Olivia have something in common. You became a mom. While you're in this program, you had a baby during quarter 4, which is March of this year. Talk about starting the program, navigating the first few quarters as an expecting mom.
You mean, what was I thinking? Maybe I wasn't, but so about 2 weeks prior to LR1, found out that my husband and I were expecting our first child, which was very exciting, but timing-wise, a little bit daunting. In March, we welcomed little Miss Lily, who I think is, she's been to about half the residencies now, so she's working on her MBA. But we travel in from Texas every on grounds and definitely have a huge support system that helps make sure during those on grounds she's taken care of. But it's been kind of a balancing act, transitioning from just taking care of myself to adding one more person to the mix, as any parent could attest to. But it's definitely been challenging, and I've really learned to rely on the learning teams here at Darden, which has been a huge thing for me.
So obviously being around for the weekend residencies and just knowing from an arm's length, the experience that you and Olivia were having, I was so impressed with the physical aspect of it. It's hard. Many of our students, they have full plates and all of that, but like you had another human while you were in the program. You continued with the program. No real pause. Just kept right. You're on pace to graduate with your class.
Yeah, knock on wood, right? I think, and you kind of hit it there, that everybody in this program is dealing with something. And we might not all know what we're dealing with, but we all have these things that we have to balance. And that's just, for me, that happens to be one of them. It's definitely something that I don't think I was prepared for. I don't know if you ever can fully prepare for that. But learning how to prioritize has been a huge thing for me. I will say I did have to do a little bit of that, in the Army or past experience that I can rely on to kind of figure out how to prioritize. But that's been a fun challenge.
So you've had a lot more practice, it sounds like, with prioritization since you got here.
Yes, for sure. That's been one of the main things that I was excited to experience. And it's definitely, you have cases all week. You have synchronous, asynchronous classes. There's definitely that balancing act. And I think that's part of it. There's probably no way that a sane person can do every single case. So you have to figure out, what amount of time you can put in and what you really want to get out of the program and prioritize kind of that way.
It's a good point that the program is not designed for you to do everything by yourself. Mm-hmm. In fact, I think most faculty would tell you it's impossible. I don't mean this as a challenge or a gauntlet for anybody out there listening, but that's not the intention. Interesting to think about that.
I think it is, and I think early on you kind of realize that they, the faculty put you in these learning team environments. So right off the bat, you're in this environment where it's kind of expected that you learn how to work well with others. And that's something that I really appreciate that.
The program is designed for collaboration. It's undeniable. Most students, you've referenced your learning team. Everybody's assigned a learning team in our program. Sometimes folks hang with that learning team for the entirety of the program. Sometimes other folks find new teams. There's nothing wrong with either approach. It's finding a group that works well for you. But everybody's working with a group. So tell us a little bit more about your learning team.
So we started out with a very diverse group and diverse experience-wise. I think we have a doctor, a CFO, a software guy, somebody who's about to, run the government, and then me. So a basketball player. But I think that is just the epitome of what you get at Darden is all of these different people coming with all these great skill sets, and you can just kind of pick and choose and learn, okay, this person's really good at that. Maybe I should hit them up with this question. And then, for me, the challenge is what can I bring to them? And I think eventually you learn where you fit in skill-wise and how you can help that team, make it through the on-grounds.
So letting go in that way, though, kind of entrusting your preparation to a group and not doing everything by yourself can be challenging. Had you had prior experience with that? Was that something you were familiar with?
I think that's a good question. I think a lot of times the perception is if you're going to business school, you're very much a type A person and you're competitive and you want to do well. And certainly I'm competitive and want to do well, but I grew up playing sports, so maybe there's part of that where I just really enjoy being part of a team, and it's being humble enough to know, like, I am really not good at this material. Can you, somebody on my team who's better at that, can you help me with that? And I think being able to reflect on your skills and what you bring to the table is helpful. To figure out how that learning team, how you're going to best play a part in that.
Yeah, you're right that everybody has something to contribute. And I'm glad you mentioned the humility thing. It's an interesting combination of characteristics, the kind of student who really thrives at Darden, right? You have to be willing to participate and speak up and feel like you have something to contribute. Contribution is an important part of one's grade here. But you also have to simultaneously acknowledge that, like, you have much to learn from all the other people in the room.
Yeah.
Kind of an interesting mix.
It is, and you hit on a point where this class participation and contributions, and for me, that's another thing I think we just talked about in LO, leading organizations, was I think Professor Isabella said that if you are an introvert, it takes you 8 seconds before you think about even raising your hand, and that's totally me. So being in this environment has really forced me to put myself out there in a way that I think in undergrad I wasn't comfortable, but now you're in this setting and it's kind of expected of you, so you become more willing to take those steps and to kind of enrich yourself.
So I always have to ask, when you thought about coming to Darden, you probably knew about the case method and you knew that you were going to have to participate in class. Were you attracted to that? Was that something that drew you to Darden because you knew it would help you grow in this way? Or was it something that maybe gave you a little bit of pause and you had to think about for a little while?
I think it definitely gave me a little bit of pause just based on my personality. I knew it would be a struggle. And even still, we're 1 year in and I don't think I even said much today. And so it's something that I'm still working on and trying to improve myself, but I wanted to put myself in that position to, ultimately get better at it.
Yeah, I think there's a great opportunity to practice, right? And I had a conversation with Alicia Braxton.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, one of your classmates. She did such a great job on the podcast talking about just that experience of trying to figure out, like, what it means to contribute in class and sort of, we talk about finding your voice all the time, and I think that's right. Figuring out, one, that you have something to contribute, that your classmates value your perspective, and yeah, I'm going to speak up. I'm going to say something because what I have to say, this perspective, it's going to be helpful to people.
Yeah, and I think there's a balance too. With me, I found that a lot of times I tend to do a little bit better in smaller groups. So after class, I'll go up and talk to another student about a point that they made. And, the learning continues outside of the classroom, obviously, whether that's, when we're about to go out to eat together and we continue to have these conversations. So I think finding your moments is another key.
So let's talk a little bit more about where you live, because, we've talked about, being a new mom, and I want to come back to that too as well. But I want to talk about just the logistics of participating in the program from where you live. So tell us a little bit about your current hometown. Sure.
Well, I fly in from, it is called Kingsville, Texas. It is about an hour outside of Corpus Christi. So I would love to say that I am like a United frequent flyer silver status, but not quite there yet. But yeah, so I travel in, usually have to leave on Thursday and stay at a hotel or a friend's house or somebody in the program is kind enough to let me stay for a night. And then on I guess before the baby, I would fly out on Sunday night, but now it's a little bit tricky because if the baby comes with me, that's a long day for her. So we'll usually, maybe I work remotely, so I'm able to stay here in DC or go up to New Jersey where my family lives for a week and kind of get back into the swing of work and then fly back.
I enjoyed your point a little bit pre-podcast chatter about your current hometown. How many taquerias?
Oh, man. So you got to come visit. There's 19 taquerias. Outside of that, we do have a Walmart and we have a Chili's, and that's your Friday night. It's that kind of town.
I am pro taco. I am in favor of any place that has, 26,000 people?
26,000.
And 19 taquerias?
I'm sure there's some sort of ratio that we could figure out in class.
Yeah, that's a little over one taqueria per 1,000 people. That is that's pretty good. Yeah. I like it.
Oh, it's great.
So, you must have thought about these logistical details when you were considering Darden. How did you ultimately say, no, this is what I want to do. I want to make this work? Mm-hmm.
So right now, one of the hats I wear is a military spouse. So my husband is active duty Navy, but he is going to get out of the Navy, and we're coming up on this point where we get to choose where we live. We're both from the East Coast, families here, so we knew that at the end of this program, it would be a great time for us to get back to the East Coast. Obviously, one of the great things about business school and Darden specifically is the network that you build. And so having a network that was where we wanted to be was just kind of that strategic decision point for us.
So that led you to the Washington, D.C. area and the University of Virginia Darden School of Executive MBA program.
Absolutely, yes.
So logistics, you're a new mom. How are you doing? We are recording this in quarter 8. So I always remind people when they come on here, we had a lot of conversations during quarter 7. Like, the end is near. You just got to.
There's a light.
Yeah, you can see it. It's off there on the horizon. It's quarter 8, quarter 9, quarter 10, LR2, and you are a graduate. Congratulations, class of 2020.
Yeah.
So. You're close.
It goes by so fast. It feels like I was just, quarter 2. But it does feel amazing. It's been a lot of hard work, but the second year it's really exciting. You get to actually choose what electives you want to take. And so you have a little bit of control in that. So you can pinpoint which classes you want to kind of focus in on in the second year. So some of that flexibility is nice after the first year of all the core classes and kind of slugging through that. And now you get to choose again. It's kind of nice.
So what are you choosing to take?
Well, last quarter I took negotiations class. And this was one of those classes where I was like, I am terrible at negotiating. I need to put myself out there. So I just finished that class up. And then I might do an independent study. I need to talk to some of the professors about that. But I don't know. If I mentioned I played basketball, so I might want to do something with sports, athletics. But there's a lot of opportunity there, which is really exciting to do some kind of independent study that is totally different than what I do in my day job, but it's still something of interest. So excited to look into that.
So let's talk about your negotiations class. This was during quarter 7, students could have chosen either negotiations or entrepreneurial thinking. Talked to a few people in the entrepreneurial thinking class here on the podcast. I think you're the first person I've had on that's had a chance to talk about negotiations.
Okay.
Negotiations is one of these things. I think some people might hear that and be like, a whole class about negotiations? So what does it look like?
So it was really interesting. It was, you had a book that was kind of your guide, your framework, but a lot of the class was role playing. So you would get a case, and one side would get one set of the case facts, and the other side would get the other side. And then if we were doing a synchronous class, we would do that virtually. So, get on FaceTime or Zoom, some sort of video conference, and actually negotiate for a set amount of time. And then we had to each kind of write a report and submit to the professor whether we agreed on a deal or not. And as the course progressed, we kind of added more sides, more pieces to the puzzle. And by the end of the class, I think the last negotiation had 5 different players. So it was really interesting how it built up and how you added more people into the mix, how that changed the dynamics of the negotiation.
One of my most enjoyable moments as someone who's around for these weekend residencies is they needed an extra person for one of those 5-party negotiations. Yeah, okay. And I got to play the part of, I think, a union representative.
Ooh.
Yeah, drive a hard bargain. I play a lawyer in my previous life, so I played a lawyer at least.
Did you guys make a deal?
You know what? We didn't make a deal.
Okay.
It kind of got hung up a little bit. But it's, even no deal, you still learn some things.
No, absolutely. And I think that was I went into that class trying to put myself in a different mindset because, in another class, we had this whole personality assessment. And one of my personality points is consensus building. So I was like, okay, I know that about myself. How can I try to be different? So in the negotiation class, I really tried to be a little bit contrary to what I would typically do.
That's interesting. That sort of self-awareness, how it might inform some of your choices in these interpersonal classes. One of the things some of your classmates have commented on is how much they've learned about themselves through this program. I wonder if that's also your takeaway.
I do not know myself. I think that's one of the coolest things that I have gotten from this program is, again, this school is what you put into it. And if you are willing to be a little bit introspective and, take what the professors are giving you and figure out how does this apply to me, I think I've definitely learned a lot about myself and how I tend to operate. And then, bringing that up a scale, like how do you operate personally, but then at the business level, what are your tendencies? And I think that's been eye-opening.
That was one of the things that when I first started doing these podcast interviews, so we are, well on our way here. It's the 3rd, 4th season. Kind of lost count a bit. But one of the things that I was struck by when I first started having these conversations with people is I kept pressing them on what did they get out of the program. And they were saying things like self-awareness. I know myself so much better. I have a sense of my blind spots. I really know what my value is at this point, what I'm really good at, and what other people are better than me at. And it's like, and accounting and finance, and of course that's there as well. But this is not all about technical knowledge. It is about self-discovery. It's about growth and development, and a lot of interpersonal growth and development.
I would totally agree, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to come to Darden. I had watched some friends and then my sister, my brother-in-law go through MBA programs, and they all had a very similar experience in that they were going in to get a specific skill set and then left with this feeling like I know now exactly what I do and how I want to pivot and how I want to get there because this is something that I'm passionate about. And that's kind of why I chose Darden, was to help me figure out what is that passion and how can I get there. And I think it's a really unique opportunity to be able to be in an environment every couple of days in synchronous fashion, and then on these weekends where you get to dive in and figure out what is it that you want to do.
Do you enjoy the weekend residencies?
I do. They're tiring if we're being real life, but there's also an energy that you get from it just from being in the classroom again, and most of the fun stuff happens outside of the classroom and where you really get to learn and see what your classmates are all about. So yeah, it's definitely fun.
Oh, I have a sense for how full the days are. We have class visitors here, and so I'm at least on the periphery. Mm-hmm. No one is asking me questions, and I'm not having to come up with something to say about a marketing case or a strategy case. But I see the amount of time that you're in class, and these are very full weekends. We always stress that with prospective students that, you're going to have a lot going on in class, and then there's obviously a lot going on socially outside of class, and you're going to want to make time for that. I think sometimes we talk with prospective students and they're really focused on the location and it is super convenient and my life is here and the program's here and that's all very easy. But what we always say to them is like, yeah, but don't forget, you only have so much time in this program and you only have so much time to really get to know your classmates and invest in those relationships. I mean, you have classmates that live here in the DC area that come and stay in the hotel. Do we? Yeah, you definitely do.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, because like you said, that's when all the networking and the relationship building actually happens. So you really want to, when you're here, be here. Whether you are coming from, Oregon, or if you're living 2 miles away, it doesn't matter. This is the time that you have to really take advantage of that and get to know your classmates.
So you have a few months left. Mm-hmm. Then you'll be a graduate. And perhaps bound for the East Coast at some point. We have more people, fewer taquerias.
I know. Yeah. I've done the research.
So curious about what's on your list. I want to talk about your independent study too, but what do you hope to accomplish between now and graduation?
That is a good question. I think in the first couple of months, because I was pregnant, I didn't get to fully experience, or at least I feel like I didn't, part of that outside of the classroom environment. So I'm really excited to kind of dive into that side of business school and get out there and, really get to know my classmates a little bit better in these next couple months. So that's kind of one goal for me, is to be doing that. And then, when you start the program, you kind of get put in a bucket. Are you a climber or switcher, or I forget what the third one is. Entrepreneur. That's obviously not what but I think I am just totally enjoying my job right now at the nonprofit that I work at. So it's just figuring out, how can I leverage these last couple of months to really get everything from the program that I can then go and take and apply at work on the Monday through Friday side.
Do you feel like the program has helped you at your job?
Oh, yeah. And I'm really excited we have a couple of strategy classes. We just started one of the strategy classes, and then I think I signed up for 2 other electives. So that is going to be really important for me. And I'm excited to get some more structure and framework with how I think that can hopefully be applied real world in the nonprofit that I work at.
One of the things that's great about strategy, it is kind of like the ultimate Darden course, because it is the enterprise course. And we are a school that talks a lot about enterprise thinking, how you have to think about the whole. Even if you're thinking about a particular problem, you have to think about the full operation. How, as someone in the nonprofit world, not a lot of people with MBAs running around in nonprofits, but we hear from quite a few prospective students that it's a perspective that is needed and would be beneficial to have more MBAs. Has that been in your experience?
That's a good question. I think that in a nonprofit world specifically, you have a lot of people that are very mission driven, who just really are passionate about whatever that nonprofit's goal is, which is amazing because you don't always have that maybe on the corporate side. But definitely having an MBA, and I hope there's certainly, all the leaders in my organization are very structured and have that already. But I hope that through getting this MBA, I can be able to just augment a little bit or add some piece that maybe they hadn't thought of to kind of improve what we're already doing. So I think it's, or I hope it will be a useful skill set to bring to the table.
Let's talk about your independent study. You mentioned basketball. You played basketball in college.
Guilty again. They can see I'm like 6'4", sitting across from
It comes through on the podcast.
It does, yeah.
You played all 4 years?
I did, yes.
And you want to tell us a little bit more about your playing career?
So I have one claim to fame. My basketball team, when I was a sophomore, amazing group of ladies, but we made it to the NCAA tournament, and we drew a first-round game against Tennessee, and we got dunked on twice. We'll just leave it at that.
Was Pat Summitt on the sideline?
Oh, yeah.
Legend.
Yeah. It was pretty amazing. I think I was not a starter by any means. I was lucky to be on the team, but I remember being in for like 2 minutes and just looking at this sea of Tennessee huge women, and I couldn't see a teammate of mine. So it's a different ball game. Was
Candace Parker on that Tennessee team?
She was the dunker that got us.
That was my guess. So, yeah. All right, there you go. So, brush
Good
with celebrity.
Of women's basketball. I
try to keep up.
Yeah.
So, what's your independent study? I mean, I feel like it can go a lot of different directions.
It could, and so this is just kind of coming up. We actually had a visitor last on grounds who worked for Coach K at Duke doing some analytics work, and he just asked if anybody would be willing. I think he and Jim are shaping a course, and so I might be helping out with that. I don't have many details yet, but I figured, basketball is something that I'm still very passionate about and coaching. So if there's any way that I can dip my toe in there and see what he's been working on for the past 11 years, that would be really interesting to me.
Well, great time for us to have this particular conversation. NBA just tipped off this week. Mm-hmm. Tuesday, official start of the NBA season. College basketball is on the horizon.
It is.
Which is always, most UVA fans' favorite time of the year.
It is.
I mean, gosh, the defending men's basketball national champions.
I know.
University of Virginia Cavaliers.
I did watch that game. That was like right after the baby came. It was a great time.
Interesting story for our 2019s. They were in Charlottesville during LR2 when that game was played, and there are a lot of pictures. People were, needless to say, very excited about it. And to me, one of the things that I thought was best about that is these are executive MBA students, mm-hmm. right? Many of them have spent most of their time here in the Washington, D.C. area. And yet they still feel that connection to UVA.
Still feel a part of it, yeah.
That's what we want.
No, and I think that was one of the questions that I got from some other people, like, you're going to UVA, but not at Charlottesville. How's this going to work? And it just does. You still feel a part of the school. It doesn't matter really where you are. The culture still comes through, which is impressive, and it's one of the coolest things about this program.
It's the thing we talked the most about when we moved here, to be honest with you. Having been in some of those meetings about moving into the Washington, D.C. area. For those listeners who are just starting to learn about the Darden School, it is a place that cares deeply about the student experience and about the culture that's present. The locus of that culture is very much in the classroom, right? How you learn in the interactive sort of collaborative way that you're learning. But it is also about, to Anna's point, all the stuff that happens outside the classroom. And we didn't ever want this to be a transactional experience for students.
Yeah, I think you guys nailed it.
Well, so far, one of the coolest things, and this is not something you have been able to witness yet, although next residency, I think you'll be here, and we'll have some 21s here at the same time. I think y'all may overlap during the next residency, which will be fun. But for the 2021s, typically there's 2 sections here in Roslyn, and what's been great about that is just the energy that's present. We have had some structured class events as well, and people have hung around for those. And we've had a +1 event so people could bring their partner, significant other, family, friend, whoever they wanted to bring. And that's been great because all of a sudden these people are getting to meet all the people they talk about all the time. And so we'll be doing more of that. I think that's a real opportunity for the program.
Oh, that is really cool. And I think it's exciting that you have both cohorts because, 2020 and before, you might not see your classmates for months on end. So it's just another, you're doubling the group of people. Your network is that much bigger. It's really impressive. Yeah,
I think that's a good point. And I'm reminded of that as to the structure of the program that you've experienced and it's a little bit different going forward for our class of 2022. I'm reminded of the fact that you don't get to see everybody in the Charlottesville section all the time when I'm here on a global quarter with you, and people are running into people they haven't seen for a few months, or maybe since LR1 in some cases, depending on the student. So it's all to say there are many reasons why people do these kind of programs. Invariably, one of the motivations for anyone, particularly at a place like Darden, is you want to build your network. You want to expand the group of people you know. I think there's even more opportunity for students to do that now. And it's a place that's always cared about that relationship building. And I think the program team is doing a great job of building structure to even further facilitate that. So exciting times to be sure.
I'm a little jealous that.
Well, I always, one of the funny things is, if we're doing the right stuff and the program's continuing to get better and better, I think a little bit of envy from past graduates,
the alumni is a good thing.
Yeah, is a healthy thing. So, Anna, you are close to the end. You have one more quarter of core, and then you start electives. We talked a little bit about you're balancing traveling in. You've got a job, nonprofit, doing important work. You're a new mom. What would be your tip for someone, or tips as to how you juggle these things? How do you balance?
Sometimes it feels like everything is just hanging on by a thread, but that's not often. I think, one key is just to not take yourself too seriously, and it's okay not to be perfect and winning at every single thing because you physically cannot do that, and relying on those around you to find your support system, because regardless of if you have a full-time job and you've got kids, or you're just traveling in, whatever it is, you're going to be juggling something, and just let people help you, and when you can, help them in return.
So last question. It's typically the same wrap-up question for all the current students that we have on the podcast. We always ask for a piece of advice. It doesn't have to be anything specific to Darden. It can just be about MBA generally. What's a piece of advice you would share with a prospective student who's out there listening to this podcast?
I would say if you are at all curious about this program, don't hesitate. Just ask Brett, what is it about? Or don't be shy. Connect with somebody on LinkedIn that's there. We are all so willing to be a resource because others before us have done the same thing. And I think that's just the heart of what Darden is somebody is going to be willing to share that and offer their perspective about what you might get out of this program. So I would say don't be shy, like I usually am, and just go for it and ask the question.
I second that. I think one of the greatest things about being an admissions person at Darden is you have incredible alumni and current students who are so generous with their time and always willing to answer questions. If you're listening, I always think like if you're listening to a podcast about the program, you're already pretty far down. You're at least interested. So make another connection. Take one more step, and as you go through each step, just ask yourself, well, what do I think now? Is this something do I want to keep moving forward?
Yeah.
All those data points. Most students, it's a process, right? How long did you think about going back to school before you actually did it?
Gosh, definitely more than a year, maybe almost 2 years even, like really considering it. So it is a process.
Yeah, that 100% on that. We will occasionally run into prospective students that say, I've been thinking about this for a really long time. And the thing that we always say back is, everybody does. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's undeniable.
Yeah.
Well, Anna, you've had a full day of marketing here, but you still made time for the podcast. We are always grateful. Thank you so much for all your insights and for your time.
Well, thank you for having me, and excited to hear more podcasts from you.
And that was my conversation with Anna Christen, an Executive MBA format student in our class of 2020. As always, if you have any comments, suggestions, requests, anything you'd like for us to cover here on the podcast, we're all ears. We can be reached at exec, that's EXECMBA, at darden.virginia.edu. Until next time, thanks for listening.